Everybody, welcome our guest today, Joe Sloan, the offensive coordinator for the LSU Tigers. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, GT. Glad to be here.
Hey, Coach. At the end of 30 to 45 minutes, everybody's going to be glad you showed up today on the Leadership Factory podcast. So just
Well,
a quick
I hope so.
note, just for me and you to get connected and everybody else connected on the same issue, because we're talking about leadership, building leaders. So 37 years of searching for what that definition is for me. And I've been a management trainee all the way to the owner of the business and every position in between. So the definition we use here on the Leadership Factory is a leader is a person who can inspire another person to take a journey that they're just not going to take by themselves. They're just not going to do it. How do you get someone to do something? As one of my past boss says, Greg, you need to learn how to take chicken crap and turn it into chicken salad. He said, when you can do that, you can tell everybody how much money you want. And until you can do that, shut your mouth.
Right.
You got to get it out of them.
Hey, that's good.
What's your quick thoughts on that definition?
No, I think it's 100% accurate. I think it goes back to inspiring, right? And inspiring other people. And, I think that starts with building relationships. You have to have relationships with the people who you are leading in some way or another. That doesn't mean you got to be best friends. That doesn't mean, we're all on equal footing, because I think a lot of times there has to be a hierarchy and a level of respect, but there has to be a relationship and a trust there, right? Because people have to trust. And sometimes you got to ask them to trust because they want to do something that maybe they necessarily wouldn't do, right? And you got to call on their trust. And that starts with relationship, which usually starts with time.
I promise everybody, you and I did not talk about any of this stuff.
No, we did not.
No, we did not, because trust is the electricity to the inspiration.
See, that's a lot cooler than I would have said it. But yes, I agree.
Because without trust, you don't have diddly.
No.
And the first way to build trust is what you said. I call it STOP, STOP, spend time on people.
There you go.
Can't do it.
I've heard.
We're done, Coach. We've already solved the problem. So
yeah, there's Kevin Elko who came to speak to us when I was at Louisiana Tech, and I know he was with a bunch of different NFL teams and
love Dr. Elko.
Yeah, he's fantastic. So I've listened to some stuff there, and one time he said, how do you spell? Same thing. He said, how do you spell love? And he said TIME. So same thing, right? I mean,
that's so good.
There's no replacement for time. And then I think now, and this is where something that I have to do a better job, because of the job that we have, there's so many things going on all the time, and you're so close to them because of these things, right? You can get to them at all times. I'm always available. So time, but also being engaged during that time, and then being genuine during that time.
We say here on Leadership Factory Podcast, I want everybody to get a minimum of 3 things through this conversation. You can come up with 3 things. You and I are going to say close to 1 million words. So can everybody get 3 things? You got to have a pad and a pen with you, because if it's not on paper, it's going to be vapor. Then I'm going to challenge everybody at the very end. It's a domino effect. Can you pick one thing that you can do in your leadership journey that will knock the rest of the issues out of the way? That's fine-tuning and being an effective leader. Can you figure out the most powerful thing to do that'll change everybody's perspective, and you can get more wins and make more money in a business setting type of environment?
Well,
because you're dropping nuggets early, Coach.
Well, I don't know how many people will listen to this. Once they see that it's me, probably about 10. But let's say that when they hear it's my thing is, I bet 90% of the people who are listening are doing something else while they're listening. And I'm just basing that on because I know what I would be doing, and I'd be doing multiple things. And a lot of times when you try to do that, you end up not getting enough. You can't give the proper thought. I was at a and I love what you said there about writing 3 things down and do. I always say this: when you leave something, when you listen to something, watch something, or you're at a conference, you're having a meeting with somebody, with maybe somebody who does, something similar to you, but in a different company, or, for me, a different team. How are you going to once you listen to that, decide what you like, and then if you like it, how are you going to integrate it into what you do daily, weekly, or monthly? Because if you don't integrate it and you do it once, you have to put too much effort in to repeat it again if it's not integrated into your process and your schedule. That's where I know for me, that's the hardest thing for me, because I love listening. I love listening to different ideas. I love talking to people. I love dialogue. I love hearing, oh, this is what they're doing at this other place, or this is what they're doing here. And you can get scattered, and you have to make sure you integrate it, because a lot of times, and that's what I've come in here and working for Coach Kelly, I think the best thing about him, and there's tons of them, obviously he's been ultra successful, but his process and the building block, the foundation of our organization is clearly defined, and it's simple, and it's clearly defined. So it's repeatable. And that's something that is very important for me and my personality, because if you're going to learn something, you got to be able to integrate it so you can repeat it, or else.
It takes 21 days to create an unconscious competent routine.
I believe that. And sometimes,
but you got to be doing it right for 21 days.
Correct. Sometimes listening and saying, that's a really good idea. That's something really cool that they're doing. That's great. We're not going to do that, but it made me think about my own process, and maybe I'm more committed to what I'm already doing now. Whatever that might be.
Because if you came on here to listen to the podcast looking for answers, my motive in my heart is just to stir your thinking.
Right.
Because you've got the answer inside of it. To inspire someone is to to draw out of someone that's already in them. So my job in my speaking and my leadership coaching, my job is to teach other people how to draw out of something. Because the word inspires to draw out. Isn't that cool?
Very cool.
And that's what you're saying. How do you get someone to do something? Well, it's like you said, the number one thing is spend time.
Yeah.
Until you have trust, you can't do anything. You get trust, you got a little electricity. Coach, you got a little electricity, you can turn the lights on.
That's it.
Come on, Coach, I'm with you now. So based upon that inspired definition, who's your best leader and why? And what did you know about them? How did they make you feel? And what did you see them do?
Best leader of me, or best leader that I've seen?
Coach, you're the OC at LSU, brother. You can do pretty much what you want to do.
The best leader of me, I would say, was my dad. Because I watched his interaction with other people. And that was just something that maybe people couldn't put their finger on. You know what I mean? And he was able to be very successful. There's a lot of people that were around him, and I, I'm sure there's plenty of people who didn't maybe like him, but a lot of people in his same profession, and who were successful in business, in our area, just south of Richmond, Virginia, there, that were extremely successful. Maybe in their drive towards success, they created a lot of, I don't want to say enemies, but they put up a big weight behind it.
Coach, we create enemies. Everybody, we're not for everybody.
Right. That's right.
The Leadership Factory podcast is not for everybody. Now, Coach, that's hard for me to say that.
I know.
It's hard.
You want everybody to like it. But I think watching my dad, he was able to be firm with people that worked for him, people that he worked with. um, but also have this kind of magnetic piece to him. Um, and hard work. He was always, nothing replaced hard work for him. He was, and that's kind of the example that I got, and I would say that definitely, he's the number one leader there, you know. I mean, obviously in football, yeah, I've had the opportunity to be around a good number of leaders at all different levels, in terms of, uh, different coaches, different players, um, leading different styles, right, and inspire people in different ways, right? Because football, we have that, but I would say for me personally, that would definitely be the answer.
Would you mind sharing the story about your dad and how you
Yeah,
ran his company when you were
yeah.
in college?
So my dad. So when I
That's
went to
coach. When I found that out about you, besides your brother telling me you made all A's and never made nothing but A's, and he said, I know he's not going to tell you that, but I just wanted to let you know that. I said, well, I knew he was a smart ASS, but I didn't know he was
yes,
smart.
that's right. Well, there's no doubt. Yes,
Because
I
there's
can get.
not a lot of those type of people out there like me. I'm a C student guy.
Hey, you can ask plenty of people. There's a number that will tell you. Uh, but so when I went to college, and this is where I think this is what I tell everybody. You know what I mean? You kind of have an idea of what you think you want to do, and I wanted to either be in. My dad was in construction, and then had started to get into development at the end of his career, and I wanted to either then transition fully into real estate development when I got back from college, or I wanted to coach college football. I knew I was going to stay involved in football. I was either going to do that and coach high school on the side, you know what I mean, and help out, or get in college. And so I go. I'm in East Carolina, 05, 06. At the end of 2006, he got sick. I say in the end of 2006. It was it was really it was 2007. I'm thinking in terms of football seasons, but it was 2007 in June, July. And got sick, and we're in the middle of a 300, 350 lot subdivision. Um, and in 2007, most of the people that will be listening to this podcast would understand what happened in 2007, 8, 9. The real estate market bottomed out. So we had a big problem on our hands, and my dad got diagnosed with lung cancer in June, July of 2007. So, um, everything started to be a problem, right? He immediately went to chemo and radiation. He had a lot of problems with chemo and radiation. So we get through the fall, and then in January, February, when he started to get pretty sick, uh, I decided, you know what, I'm going to get all online classes, and I'm going to come home and help. And I came home and helped, and then as he got sicker and sicker, I kind of slowly took over there and ended up kind of organizing. We ended up selling to a partner, um, working with a bank. We had some really good people. We had a great great guy at Regions Bank who worked really well with me, and a partner who worked really well with me. Uh, and
How
and
old
then
were you?
I was 21. Yeah, I was 21. I turned 21 in December of 2007. So, all that, and then my dad passed away in that next summer of 2008. So when all that was going on, uh, it was definitely a rapid fire learning. Let me tell you that. It's just there's a lot of emotions going on, and you're having to deal with the emotions of my dad and I were obviously close. I referenced him as a leader. So the level of our relationship personally, um, and then what he had taught me professionally, you know, um, and not just professionally in his job, but professionally in terms of he ran a business, right? He was didn't matter whether it was construction or whether it was whatever, right? It was running a business, running a corporation. So learning all those things and dealing with those emotions, and then also dealing with, multi-million-dollar deals and trying to make sure that our family was protected through that, right? And specifically my mom, as he was getting pretty sick. So it was definitely learning in the fire. I'll say
That's
that.
good.
But it was great. And
So
I don't regret any of it. These things happen. I probably learned more in those 4 or 5 months about myself than ever. And fortunately, Skip Holtz and Todd Fitch and a couple guys who were who were my coaches at East Carolina were really flexible with me, allowed me to come back and get my MBA. And say, all right, well, I'm going to go back and get my MBA and I'm going to kind of finish school. And then I started working upstairs with them, with the coaching staff while I was still playing. I was a scout team quarterback and, held for field goals and that kind of stuff. So they let me start working up there. And I said, you know what? Probably should try this for a little bit, especially with where the market's at. I had a couple job opportunities with some people back there, where we could move some stuff around and probably would have been great. It would have worked out really well. But I decided that I was going to try this out and I ended up loving it.
wow.
So it's been awesome.
So you found your passion through hardship and trials and tribulations. So
Yeah.
and I really appreciate you sharing that story. I know that was gut wrenching for you to talk about your dad because I know how much you love and honor your dad and all the things you've learned from him. But he'd be very proud of you today, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think, obviously I've referenced it. I've referenced it a lot. Somebody told me when I was going through it, said you'll remember your dad every day of your life. And I do. It's true. You know what I mean? It's true. But I've told the story enough now where I'm a little bit better at 10 years ago, I would have struggled through that one. But now,
Right.
it's part of life, right? It's part of those things that we end up having to go through. But it was good. But I mean, hey, you never know. It's funny how things happen. If the real estate market crashes in 2011 instead of 2007, probably wouldn't be sitting here. So I don't know. You never know, right? It's funny how things happen. And now I have a unbelievable job. I've had an opportunity to meet so many different great young men and hopefully help them in different ways. And I met my wife in Louisiana. We have 2 beautiful daughters. And
her first name's what?
Taylor.
Okay. That's why I asked why she's amazing, Coach.
That's right. There's no doubt.
You got good HR skills. I would assume you're a good picker.
Absolutely.
As my wife says when she calls me crazy, that's stupid. Why do you think that way? I go, baby, hold up a minute. Don't tell anybody you think I'm crazy. That downgrades your HR skills.
No doubt.
When they ask me about you, I say you're the most amazing person to ever walk on the earth because I got good HR skills.
That's it.
Because I'm gonna do full disclosure here, Coach. When my son came to Louisiana Tech and I found out you were the coach, and the first thing I did, being an older guy, I said, how old is this guy? And you probably what, 28?
I was 26.
You were 26, and I went. I just gave it that. I was like, so I kept an open mind because I'm learning and growing myself, and still am at 60. So I was 47, 48, 49, 50 at that point. I said, keep an open mind. Then when I met you, I was like, okay, it's a pretty young guy. So, and I'm telling the story to understand. Sometimes I just had to trust Coach Holtz.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are out there in a jam where they don't believe in a certain person, but someone above them believes in them, but you don't believe in them.
That's right.
So I said, Coach Holtz knows more about football than I do, so I'm going to believe in what he said. Then when I found out about your story about your dad, I went, I said, yeah. I was like, yeah, for you to be around my son to have those events going in your life, I want you to know that meant something to me. I mean, I just got chills on myself.
Well, I appreciate that.
Because you can speak into my life, into my son's life. He hasn't been through that. Because tough times are tough times.
And everybody's going to be different. And I always say my tough time happened to involve a bunch of dollars and involve my dad passing away and involve, a lot of things, right? Like, so it was a pretty heavy situation for me, but maybe a tough time for someone else. If you just looked at it in black and white, it may be defined, oh, well, that's not as big of a deal. No, it's a huge deal to you when you're going through it, right? So, and I think everybody deals with their own personal issues, in their own way. And when we can share those stories, and I think, we use the word relate, relates the right. When you feel like someone can relate to you, it doesn't mean that they come from, I try to create an opportunity to relate to my players. I have players that we wouldn't have anything in common. You know what I mean? Outside of a lot of things. But there's something that to the naked eye we wouldn't, right? But there's something, right? There's things in there, but that's where the relationship comes in, right?
Coach, you just said the title of this. Create an opportunity to relate. It didn't say opportunities will come and go. No, you said intentionally, consciously, I have to create an opportunity to be relatable to this person.
Have to.
You're not going to get anything out of it until you do that. Boy, that's good. Right. Consciously create an opportunity to relate.
Well, I think just on the surface, right? On the surface, you had, well, for one of the first guys I ever coached was your son, right? And one of the best guys I've ever coached, and will be one of the best guys I ever coached. I don't care how long I've coached. Trent was just unbelievable in so many ways. But on paper, if you put both of us up, there'd be a lot of relatable things in terms of hard worker, grinder, probably been doubted some different times, whatever, right? And so that was probably an easy one if you put it up paper to paper. But there's also other relationships where, you would say, man, this guy's so different from you, Coach Sloan. But there's something there, and there's something there, and you got to find it. And a lot of times you got to get out of your own way. And I think that the part for me is, how do you maintain the level of, because I do think there has to be a level of respect, right? And particularly in the organizations that I work in, football, there has to be a level of like coach player, and that can't get lost, because then that becomes a problem too. And that's where you have to be able to walk that line and figure that out and still develop that relationship.
That's wisdom, discernment, good temperament.
Yeah, because I think some there is some times where, I don't want to say ivory tower, because that's the extreme, right? Is ruling from the ivory tower. But there's sometimes there needs to be a little stoicness to the position, right? When you're in a leadership role, that it can't feel like a peer-to-peer relationship. However, you have to break down the wall, and the trust has to be built through a similar level of conversations and time and everything else, while still maintaining that respect and order, I would guess would be the way to say it.
So I'm gonna throw a shout out to me and someone that you and I both know, Coach Steve Shankweiler.
Yes.
And you talk about, I don't know if he said create an opportunity to relate. So he was the offensive line coach at Western Kentucky back in 84 and 85. And I played an outside linebacker, Willie. Called it a Willie. Now I don't know what the terminology is today. That's been 40 years ago.
That sounds good.
But he every game, he would just come and sit down and say, hey, you're going to make a bunch of plays today. And I believed in him. And we just bumped into each other every once in a while. But every time I was battling against his guys, he was always picking at me, because he knew how to gig me to get me going a little bit. But he also knew how to get me going for a game time too. So
I'm sure it was hard.
I don't know. How did
I'm sure it was hard to get you going at 1920.
Well, I was full of gas anyway. I just needed to be toned down a little bit. That's
Yeah,
what Mickey Taylor's job has been.
no
And,
doubt.
and Trey and Trent, they've taught me how to, slow down. But
Yeah,
now Coach Shankwaller just did a great job. He created a moment to relate to me.
yep.
And there's 10 or 11 other assistant coaches there that never attempted to relate to me.
I know.
Because I'm going to ask him after this, why did you do that for me? Because that changed my life. Because he gave me value where I didn't have value.
No, it's you know it's so funny. And now because of coaching the quarterback position, I talk about this a lot with quarterbacks.
Why are you coaching quarterbacks, Coach? Have you ever coached a Heisman Trophy winner?
I did. I did. I tried not to get in his way. He's pretty good. He's pretty good. But
So everybody know you were Jaden Daniels' coach last year. We won the Heisman Trophy.
I was. Yeah, I was very
That's the only
fortunate.
reason I like you, Coach Sloan.
There's
Just to
no
let you
doubt.
know.
There's no doubt. Hey, uh, but I talk to guys all the time. There's so many times the story you just told. So many people, they're walking by and they see someone over there, and ah, I don't know. I don't need to. I shouldn't bother them right now. Or they got it. Or I need to go do this. Or there's an uncomfortability, and I think even as old and successful as the older and successful people get, they still have this. There's a little bit of nervousness to, is this the time to say something or not? And then I think for my personality, I have to say sometimes it's not the time to say something, right? And that's what I had to learn. Sometimes it's just time to just sit back and let it play out, because I'm naturally a very talkative, controlling. I like to be in the moment, controlling the moment, be a part of it. So I have to say, I always kind of use this rule of thumb based on one of the two scales. If I think you're kind of naturally a quiet leader who would just, all right, well, I'll get that one next time. I talk to the guys about, if you think you should say something, say it. And because I think one is being aware of your personality. Then there's other guys who maybe be a little bit more like me. And I say, you know what? If you're not sure, should I say something? Just be quiet for a second. Listen, because you don't want to lose your voice. And because if you lose your voice, then you can't lead anybody, right? And sometimes you feel like you need to control every situation, but sometimes too, um, if you're too loud and too controlling, you don't let anybody underneath of you lead from their platform either, because you suffocate the room, right? And I think everybody could probably reference when they watch somebody who was a leader of a different piece of their organization leave, and maybe all of a sudden you saw more leadership amongst the group because you probably defined them as a strong leader at the time, but they were probably maybe they were so overwhelming to everyone else that they suffocated out a little bit. Some of the leadership. Hey, right?
I'm confessing that was me till I was probably 36 or 37.
And I think, but again, it goes back to self-awareness. And I always say to the guys, I want to try to be a mirror for you. Um, you know, and hopefully I set them up to where they're a mirror for themselves, and I think that's, down the road, but I try to be a mirror for you because I think understanding your personality so you can be the best version of you. You always hear people say, well, you have to be genuine to be a leader. You need to be yourself. You need to do it through. And I agree. I agree. But that doesn't mean you have to be the exact version of yourself that you are right this second, all the time, and whatever you think is right in that moment is right. That's not being yourself.
Yeah,
Being
to me,
yourself
leadership is being a chameleon.
That's right. Being myself. So being myself, I'm ready to talk, dialogue, control it, whatever. That doesn't mean that's appropriate. there are times where I need to just take a breath. That doesn't mean I'm working outside of my own person. I'm still within my personality. And that's something that I had to learn. And I probably learned it more from you learn it when you're in charge of, in football, when you're in charge of the side of the ball and you go in there to meet with an offensive staff. I mean, you're staring at a bunch of guys that are your peers and type A personalities, right? And in a pressure oriented, right? Like win or you move your family, So it's it's a little, I always call it like a little science experiment, right? You know what I mean? Where we live in this little bubble, right? That's with a lot of highly competitive and a lot of instant feedback and a lot of pressure. So it
I just
creates
got I just got off the phone with a coaching client, and he said life is just an experiment.
It is. It is.
It's just go have fun, man.
That's right.
Just go have fun. Learn and grow, learn and grow, learn and grow, learn, grow, fail, learn, grow, fail. Just keep doing it. Because there's no destination to success. Would you agree with that, Coach?
100%. I was talking to one of our guys earlier, one of our players earlier, and I said, listen, this will never be about, hey, I'm here, I've won, and I've got the answer, so I'm trying to maintain and be defensive. That's where I think defensiveness comes in, because you're trying to say, I'm at the top, you know what I mean? I'm here, and now I can be defensive. Like I want to maintain this position, right? I want to maintain. I'm a receiver at LSU, right? I want to maintain. It's got me here. You have to have a mindset of self-awareness and in the moment, even if there's an opportunity for me to say, no, here's why this happened. It doesn't matter. The result ended up poor. So let's go back and let's look. Maybe it wasn't exactly your fault. Maybe there's nothing you could change, but let's make sure we're self-aware and have the opportunity to be self-aware so that we can grow. So when the results actually do matter, right? And like for us, those results matter, truly matter, Saturdays in the fall. Today.
No pressure to win at LSU, Coach.
No, not at all. They don't care. But like today, and yes, we want to quote unquote whatever win today, I guess would be that, we don't talk about winning, we talk about the process here. But like I'll talk about like other, you hear the thing win today. Yeah, you want to win today, but that doesn't mean you have to be right today. Does that make sense? Like being right. And this talks to a lot of people in my profession, because you want to be, you got a lot of alphas, right? You know what I mean? So you want to be right in the moment. And what I've found is trying to encourage, like, don't worry. Like there's no scoreboard. I use there's no scoreboard today. Like we don't have a scoreboard today. Right. So let's be wrong, or let's be aware and make the adjustments today. So when the scoreboard comes up, we're at our best. If we were about being right or winning that moment every day.
Can I give you some terminology for what you're saying?
Yeah, I know you have some cool words. I don't have any.
I have a class, being wise versus being right.
No doubt.
Because you want them to be wise. Because if you're wise, you'll be right in the long term.
100%.
That's what you're saying. But if you're trying to be right, you can never be wise.
No.
Because being right is all about my emotions right now.
Correct.
No, I'm trying to build for the future. I'm trying to build for a week, 2 weeks out, whatever the situation calls for. So you're trying to make them be wise versus being right. But being right makes a great athlete.
No doubt.
It's just, I love what you said here. I want to be a mirror for you so that you can be a mirror for yourself.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, that's really good. I mean, because you just want them to see who they are so they can motivate, because that's pulling out of them.
Right.
Because if they can't see who they are, they don't know what's left in them.
Yeah.
Because there's more in you. You're an All-American. There's more in you.
And I think the hard part is you know, like it's being a mirror. It's maintaining their confidence in who their self-confidence. We deal with a lot because of especially here. I've probably seen it here more than I did at Louisiana Tech. I think because of the level of attention that the players who are coming to LSU get on the way in. There's a lot of self-confidence, right? Naturally so. Because they really weren't ever doubted, up to this point. So I think the balance of maintaining their confidence while also showing them areas for growth, right? And that's a balance. And I've seen guys, their confidence gets a little chipped at, you know what I mean, early, and then you got to be aware of that as a leader and try to build that back too. And I think, I heard the statement, well, this is, and I talk this all the time. This is what got me here, especially with quarterbacks. This is what got me to. This is how I got here. This is how I got to LSU. This is how I'm being. This is me. This is who I am. In terms of decision making or style or whatever that might be, and so yeah, that's what got you here. But like, that's not. Was that the goal? Like we have another place we want to go, so we have to change our mindset, on what we want to do, and that's the part of maintaining the confidence, because I want you to maintain your mentality of what got you here, but also we're going to adjust our process slightly.
So my most precious, I call it precious quote that I heard Trent say in an interview. Someone asked him, when did you start thinking about playing the NFL? And he just kind of laughed. He said, I don't know if I really said I'm going to play in the NFL and I'm going to go boom, boom, do this, this, this. He said, I was too worried about becoming the best version of myself.
It's awesome.
And that's in what I did every day of my life. Did I get better today?
It's awesome.
Because I thought I did all that. I know my wife didn't do any of that. So no,
well,
I'm just being facetious. Because I know his family, coaches, teachers, pastors, Coach Sloan, Coach Holtz, everybody at Louisiana Tech, all is a part of Trent Taylor's journey, because he gets it. I just got to get better today.
Yeah.
And trust the process.
And I think that is why I love what Coach Kelly beats it into our guys here is we don't talk about winning. We talk about our process. We talk about our process, our traits that we want to build. We talk about our development. We talk because we can control that. Right?
Wear it out, Coach.
We have control, right? They have control. So you can point back to, hey, why didn't I succeed? Why wasn't I my best today? Well, you weren't your best because let's go back and let's look at these three things, and we could have controlled these better which would have then produced a better result. Not let's win. That doesn't mean you can, and I think that's the funny balance, because everyone's like, well, sometimes you just got to win. That doesn't mean you're not competitive and you want to win. That does, right? And that's where,
takes the pressure off. To me, it takes the pressure off.
Right.
Because in my coaching business, I deal with a lot of high competitive, high performers.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to take the pressure off of them. Just get better today. What do you mean I got to get better? Yeah, you can get better. Even though you're playing at this level that only a half percent are playing at, you can get better.
Correct.
My job is to help you identify those things. Well, I don't need your help. Well, why'd you hire me for? I'm just here to help you take another step. I'm here to help you think through who you are and the talents that are within you to see where do I need to go next. That's why I call myself a wingman. I'm not here to drive the plane. I'm here to help you navigate the situation so you can get the plane to where you want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm doing. So we got 8 more questions to ask you. So last question, Coach. We're about out of time. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to answer this last question, okay?
That's pretty short for me.
I got it. What is your winning edge?
Ooh. I think ultimately, I always go back to my work ethic. I mean, I've, and I think that was just ingrained. I watched my dad, and he worked hard. I mean, I think I look at it and say there is not a substitute for hard work. Um, I think ultimately that is something. Now, I think what I've gotten better at is working smarter, being more prepared, and being more intentional about what I'm doing. Um, because sometimes I want to just attack things with hard work, right? Or sometimes I get so scattered, and I do something for, I do things for an hour and I've done nothing, right? I found myself doing that at times. So I think working smarter, but I definitely think, ultimately, you individually, if you want to be successful at anything, right, you have to work. Now, I think as the longer you're in your profession, you figure out how to work smarter and create more opportunity where you can sit and think. I was at a conference, people call it white space talking about on your calendar, right? There were a couple people who referenced it. And for me, that was great to hear. Like there needs to be some time where you just
have alone.
Right. You got to sit, you got to think, you got to collect your thoughts, and you got to plan. And I do think I've gotten better at planning out, right, my day, my week, my month, so that I can get things done a little bit more and be a little more strategy, a little bit more task oriented. Because it's important it's important that I'm not just successful in my profession, but successful in my home.
You're a husband and father, Coach. There's nothing more important.
Correct.
You're going to be great at that as well.
Well, that's where I think, that's where you got to be careful. But I ultimately think that's what it goes back to.
You're amazing, Coach.
I appreciate you saying that. See,
I'm about to close here, so I'm going to just give some nuggets here that I heard you say. Create an opportunity to relate. Is that somebody's domino effect, or is that just one of your three to write down? Don't want to lose your voice. Woo, that's a 2-hour discussion, man. Don't want to lose your voice. Share stories to relate. Get your own way. Find your own way to do things. And I want to be a mirror for you so that you can be a mirror for yourself. There's another way of defining how to inspire someone. So, Coach, my hat's off to you. I'm not an LSU Tiger fan, but I was when Jamar A. Roscoe played there, when other kids from Evangel Christian Academy played there. But since you're there, I'm an LSU fan. And Coach Baker's there from Louisiana Tech. So the whole Taylor clan, we're Louisiana Tigers fans. So we're going to be cheering you on. And you did an amazing job today. And I knew there's just so much wisdom in you. And I appreciate and I love your journey in life. And the whole Taylor family can't say thank you enough for what you've done for our son. So just keep growing and keep getting better and keep changing people's lives is what you can do for us. And if there's anything that I can do for you, my family can do for you, Coach, all you got to do is reach out. Remember, your wife's name's Taylor. That's a reminder.
No doubt. Well, GT, I appreciate you and our relationship over the many, many years and the relationship that I got to build with Trent and watching him and watching his success and how proud I am of him. But your whole family, y'all have always been unbelievable to me and just an inspiration to me and a great sounding board, backboard, and a great friend. So I appreciate all that. I do.
Thank you, sir. Hey, you better have 3 things written down, fan group. So have one thing. Now let's get that one thing, because as one of my bosses told me, he said, Greg, the most powerful thing you can do is figure out the most powerful thing to do. So that's the domino effect. That's that one little thing. If you can get really good at that one little thing, it'll knock the rest of the dominoes down. And if you take the smallest domino, say something that big, 30 dominoes later, it'll knock down the tallest building in the world, which is in Dubai. So thank you, Coach Sloan. Thank you for everybody for joining us today. As we always say at Winning Edge, let's grow.